Hello, you guys. Oh gosh, you gotta love YouTube. So I just filmed this whole video. We just had a live stream on here and I went to play it back and there is no audio. So major fail, but I decided, you know what? I'm still here. I'm still in the energy of making this video, sharing this information with you guys. So I am just going to do it over. So here we are. Hello, everyone that's watching. Tonight, we are talking about the need for control. Now, if you're new, hello, my name is Jenny. Every Sunday on my channel, I do a quick live stream around 7 o'clock Eastern that has to do with personal development. And so that is what this video is. If you're interested in that, keep on watching. And like I said, tonight, we're talking about control, what it is, where the need for it comes from, and all of that good stuff. So I will be the first to admit this is something I really struggled with and do still struggle with from time to time if I don't catch myself. I have a little personal story in here a little while later, but control is definitely something that we all grapple with to a certain extent. Sometimes it can show up in quote unquote less harmless ways, such as, playing it off as, oh, I'm just a really organized person, or I'm such a planner. I need to have my weeks booked up for the next month in advance and know when everything's going on and blah, 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 right? So it's something that we all deal with, and yeah, it can sometimes be simpler, like I mentioned, or sometimes it can manifest in more complex manners as well, such as, feeling the need to control your partner, feeling the need to dictate who they can and cannot hang out with, who they can and cannot talk to, demanding to search through text messages, things along that line. I think when it comes to interpersonal relationships, I definitely see control issues happening the most in parent-child relationships and in romantic relationships, but it can definitely happen elsewhere as well. So it can appear in those ways. It can also appear on the opposite end of the spectrum, where you have no desire to control anything in your life and you're kind of just letting life happen to you, which that's not ideal either. So we will talk later on about what you can control and how to work with that, but everything else, we'll get to that soon. So what is control exactly, and where does it come from? So what does it mean to control, and why do we feel that way? Let me take a quick sip of water. I came in here hot, frantic because of the audio on the last live stream. I'm so sorry. Give me one moment. I'm just going to add a little comment for anyone joining us. Welcome. Okay. So, what's control? Where does it come from, right? In my personal opinion, Control can always be traced back to these three feelings. There may be more. I didn't really think deep on this one, but on the surface level, it seems to either come from fear. So, fear of the unknown, fear of our incapabilities, fear of, whatever it may be. It could come from egocentrism. So, thinking that the universe revolves around us and everyone is in our simulation and things should be done our way and blah, 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 interfering with others' personal free will, not understanding that free will is a thing, expecting others to bend to your reality. Or 3, it could very well come from insecurity within yourself, within your shortcomings, and it's often masked. So if you think it may not be one of these things, it may be insecurity, because insecurity is the one trait that we really hate to let ourselves think. I'm lost for the word. Insecurity is the trait that we hate to admit to ourselves, right? So no one likes to admit that they're insecure, especially when it comes to control, right? So that's where it's usually coming from. And it's coming from all of these low vibrational states. Those are all horribly low vibrational feelings, right? You don't get anything good accomplished out of fear, out of egocentrism, out of insecurity, right? Those are not energies we enjoy being in. They're not good things to feel. They come up and they are part of the feeling spectrum. They can set off emotions, and it's fine to feel emotions, but it's not fine when we choose to set up camp within these emotions, right? And that's what we're doing when we decide that we're going to try and control others. And it's not always like a conscious decision, right? It's has a lot to do with conditioning, the environment we were raised in, like it or not, all of those sorts of things. So anyway, I want to pose a question to you, and that is, how do you feel when you are unsuccessful in controlling a situation, right? So, first of all, you are never trying to control a situation out of joy, out of contentment, out of security, out of stability, right? Because if you were feeling any of those things, you would not be trying to control the situation. You wouldn't have reality in a chokehold trying to make it go the way that you wanted it to go, right? But back to my question, when you are unsuccessful in controlling a situation, you revert back to these feelings of anger, fear, egocentrism, all of this sort of stuff. And so it's just this cycle that perpetuates itself. And that's why we can be so deep into this need for control that we don't even realize we're there, you know? I have a story. And like I said at the beginning, I am the best example for control. I have a lot of controlling tendencies within myself that I have both recognized and have been actively working on to change. Because that's the thing. Once you recognize that this is something you're susceptible to, you start to become more aware of it. And at that point, you can absolutely change how you're feeling, how you're acting, how you're behaving. But anyway, quick story. Last week, I was feeling very angry because I live with a roommate, and you guys know I live in New York City. Most 20-somethings live with roommates here, and I have never been the kind of person that enjoys living with other people. I had lived by myself for 3 years prior to moving here. I'm an introvert. I love being by myself. And I'm also a very clean person. And as it turns out, my roommate is not. So when I moved in back in August, when we moved in, I had two requests. One, or I had two boundaries. Let's phrase it that way. The first boundary, respect me. You just have to have a level of respect. Fairly simple, right? Boundary number two, clean up after yourself. Easy enough, right? So, time and time again, these boundaries have been disrespected. And I got to a tipping point last week where I was just fuming about this because there were specific situations and instances and whatnot going on in regards to these two boundaries I had set. Wasn't the first time these boundaries have been disrespected. Likely won't be the last, but we'll talk about boundaries more in a second. But I was just so angry. And then I took a step back and thought about it this way, right? So the interactions that I have had with my roommate, which have in total for the almost 2 years I've known her, they've probably added up to about 2 or 3 hours total. Like if you were to put our long roll of footage into iMovie, cut out all the blank empty space and whatnot, our total constant talking time, total time we've ever interacted, has probably been around 2 or 3 hours total. Now, this person has been alive for 20-something years, and my interactions with her have accumulated to, we'll say, 2 hours. 2 hours out of 23 years. Why on earth would I ever think that my requests, my boundaries, my expectations would change her to the point where she would respect those? Because if she's not a respectful person at heart, and she has no regard for me at heart, or anyone for that matter, not just me, am I really that egotistical that I would think by me setting my own expectations and boundaries that she would bend to fit those? And my ego back then, and even right now as I'm telling you this, is screaming at me that, well, she's just so inconsiderate. She's so disrespectful. She has no regard for others and blah, 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 blah. That's not my place to really say, is it? So, something to take into consideration if you find yourself in a situation like this where your boundaries are being crossed, you're not being respected. If you are still just so angry after this keeps happening and happening and happening, it's coming from your need to control the situation. You want to be able to successfully control this other person to meet the criteria. You have set this arbitrary criteria. It's not like you came in to this living situation, signed a soul damning contract that said, you have to respect me and you have to clean up after yourself. That didn't happen, right? So, I mean, going back to the whole free will thing, we all have free will. And your anger, your frustration, your rumination is coming from control. It's coming from your need, desire to control other people, to bend to your reality. Now, I want to make a distinction between setting boundaries versus control and manipulation, because there is a difference. Boundaries And please set boundaries for yourself. Boundaries are just you declaring a limitation on the shit that you'll accept from other people. That's all it is. So we all have personal thresholds of what we can tolerate, what we will deal with, what we are okay with feeling, how we're going to allow emotions to come up, all of that. Everyone has different thresholds for that. And so set your own personal boundaries and be clear about that when you're communicating with other people, because you can't expect other people to meet those expectations or boundaries, right? If they don't know they exist. So before you try to control, definitely set a boundary. But if boundaries are being crossed, control and manipulation comes in when someone crosses that boundary and you're trying to force them back over that line. You're trying to force them back to the set of expectations or boundaries that you had set in place in the first place. And that's just a lose-lose game, right? I'm not saying don't stand up for yourself. I'm saying if you have created boundaries and people are just blatantly disrespecting them, goodbye. Like, people are so against like just cutting people out and blah, 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 blah. No, if someone is disrespecting me, does not have regard for the boundaries that I have clearly stated, or will not communicate with me about said boundaries, then I'm going to move on without you as much as I can. Now, for me, it's a little difficult because it's, a living situation, but I have control over what I have control over, and that is it. And actually, that's a great segue into our next point. What do you have control over? What can you control? And by my reasoning, the only two that you have actual control over are the decisions you make and the actions you take. So some would argue, and before this live stream, I was arguing with myself, well, can't you control your thoughts too? And yeah, you kind of can, but what about those random thoughts that just pop in when you're not actively thinking? Because we can't actively be thinking 24/7, right? That's not possible. The subconscious thoughts that pop into our mind, we don't control those, but we decide what we want to do with them. Do we suppress them? Do we act on them? Do we process the emotion attached to them? Whatever it may be, we are deciding. So that comes back to decision, what to do about those thoughts. That is all that we have control over, our decisions and our actions. Nothing else. Literally nothing else. And so, as difficult as it is really good to get in the habit of practicing letting go. Practice letting go. I need to continue practicing letting go. When you catch yourself in a controlling state where you're trying to fit someone else into the box of arbitrary expectations you have for them, take a step back. Practice letting go, because it's just going to wear you out. It's just going to lead to more anger. It's not healthy. It's not a good use of your time and energy. And so instead of trying to force them into this chokehold, into this little box, go ahead and redirect that energy to things that you can control. So for me, that looked like, going back to the messy roommate situation, that looks like taking control of my personal living area, making sure my stuff is clean, separating my dishes, making sure my dishes are clean, sweeping my room, doing, you know, all the stuff that affects me, I can control. All of these actions I can control. I am deciding that I want to live in a clean space, so I will make my space clean. And everything else, I don't have control over it. And so therefore, I am not going to waste my time and energy on it because it just leads to that perpetual spiral, like we kind of mentioned earlier, right? These feelings come from this low vibrational state. When it doesn't go your way, that leads to an even more low vibrational state. That leads to more low vibrational feelings. It just keeps going and going and going. And it's exhausting. I'm sure, we've all experienced this to some degree. And it's not an easy thing to change. It's not, but awareness helps so much. And it's not like you have to change like that. You can just be a gentle observer of what's going on inside your mind. See if this is maybe something that you're doing. And if you catch yourself doing it, take a step back and think of maybe what you could do differently. What can you control? Okay. So that is all that I wanted to talk about this evening. I know we kind of rushed in really quickly there at the start. I apologize. It looks like my microphone has been on this whole time, so I really hope you guys could hear me. I don't want to record this a third time, but yeah, I didn't really do my intro. So hi, I'm Jenny if you are new here, and I typically do fashion type related content on my channel, but my formal education and where I am directing my business is more to in the personal development and mindset field. And so I've really been wanting to incorporate that more onto this channel. And so every Sunday at around 7 Eastern, I am doing a live stream on here. And so the first 3 Sundays of the month are going to be personal development related, as we talked about tonight. Different topics. If you guys ever have any recommendations for topics that you want me to talk about, definitely just leave them in the comments. I always post the replays to my channel, so should you miss an episode, should you miss a live stream, they are always posted immediately after the live stream is over. I always have my little magical ball over here to set the mood, set the lighting, whatnot. It's just a fun time. Come as you are. I'm in my fleece hoodie every weekend. Low lights. It's chill. It's a vibe. So come hang out on Sundays. I left in the comment section of this video of the live chat my website, the information for my website. So if you want to learn more about me, what I do, what I offer, definitely go check that out. I'm actually in the middle of redoing my website. For the longest time, I had a bunch of styling offers on there, and I am moving away from that into, like I said, personal development and mindset. And so the styling stuff will not be on there for much longer. It is completely going away. So if you want any of the styling stuff, definitely get it now. I have some courses. I offer virtual styling, and then more mindset related. I have subliminals, journal prompts, and other digital downloads on the website right now. So if you're interested, go check it out. And as you guys noticed, there was no video today, no main channel video. I, truth be told, just wasn't feeling inspired to film anything, so I didn't. I will be back with a regular video on Wednesday and then just back to normal next Sunday, so you can be expecting those 2 videos this week. That is all I have to share with you guys tonight. Thank you for coming and hanging out if you watched this live stream, if you were part of it, and I will see you guys Wednesday and then next Sunday. Bye.